Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here. Today, I'm stepping into the role of your personal coach to tackle something that, well, almost all of us have experienced at one point or another. We are talking about that universal, often agonizing frustration of waiting for a text message to be answered. You know that exact feeling, right? When you send a perfectly good message out into the digital void, and then just crickets, nothing, total silence. It's a situation that really tests our patience and, quite frankly, can take a massive toll on our romantic self-esteem. Seriously, have you ever sent a message and just watched it sit there for hours or maybe even days? Let's just validate that anxiety for a second because it is incredibly frustrating and so confusing. If you're anything like most people, you suddenly find yourself checking your phone every 2 minutes. Your heart skips a beat when the screen lights up, only to completely sink when you realize it's just a random app notification. And in that awful state of waiting, you feel this immediate, overwhelming urge to just send another text to break the silence. And let's be honest, those follow-up texts are usually fueled by pure, unadulterated panic. You might type out something like, "Did you see my message?" or "Everything okay?" Our first instinct is usually to fire off these types of check-ins, or even worse, sending multiple messages in a row, just praying that one of them finally gets a response. We do it to soothe our own anxiety, plain and simple. But as your coach, I am here to tell you right now that if she is ignoring your messages, the absolute worst thing you can do is chase her attention. So here is our coaching playbook for today's Explainer. We're going to cover the waiting game anxiety, reclaiming your personal focus, matching effort and energy, keeping conversations natural, evaluating her communication patterns, and finally, knowing when to walk away. This is a structured roadmap designed to take you from that immediate, gut-wrenching anxiety of an unanswered text straight to a grounded state of healthy romantic self-esteem. Okay, let's jump right into step 1, the waiting game anxiety. The very first step you need to take when you realize your message hasn't been answered is to immediately stop typing. Resist that urge to double text. When you realize you're being left on read, your immediate internal reaction is anxiety telling you to seek reassurance. Every additional message you send is just begging for that reassurance rather than continuing a natural conversation. But true confidence dictates that one message is enough. You see, people respond best when they feel free to choose, not when they feel pressured or boxed in. Now, look, context definitely matters here. If this is early stage dating, a delayed reply often signals low investment. But if this is an established connection, they might truly just be busy or overwhelmed at work. Either way, making assumptions right now just creates unnecessary panic. So stay calm, stay collected, and just let time do its job. Which brings us nicely to part 2, reclaiming your personal focus. This is all about how you actually handle that brutal waiting period. The biggest mistake I see people make in modern dating is hitting pause on their entire life just to watch a typing bubble. Don't do that. Instead, go to the gym, spend time with your friends, work on your personal goals, read a book, or literally learn something entirely new. Do not put your life on hold for someone else's response. I want to be super compassionate but very firm with you here. Ironically, engaging in these specific activities makes you significantly more confident and attractive. Why? Because your happiness and your self-worth no longer depend on one single digital conversation. You're out there living a full, engaging life. Let's move on to section 3, matching effort and energy. It is a foundational truth that healthy relationships absolutely require mutual effort. It's like a seesaw. If you are always starting the conversation, always asking the questions, and constantly trying to resuscitate a dying chat, you are carrying the entire weight of the interaction on your shoulders. You need to take a step back and see if she reaches out. It really is that simple. Someone who genuinely wants to stay connected with you will usually find a way to do so. By stepping back, you're actually giving her the space to step forward. And hey, if she doesn't, well, that silence is actually giving you the exact answer you need. All right, let's look at section 4, keeping conversations natural. Okay, so let's say you've waited, you've focused on your own life, and finally, ding, a reply comes in. This is a critical moment. You might feel this weird mix of relief, but also resentment, right? And the temptation to act cold or sarcastic as a little form of punishment can be incredibly strong. You might really want to reply with something like, "Oh, so you finally remembered me?" Listen to me. Using a sarcastic response like this is a super common mistake, and as your coach, I can promise you it rarely, if ever, improves the situation. It just comes off as petty and immediately puts the other person on the defensive. It completely ruins any chance for a natural, flowing connection. So instead of punishing them, try these steps to keep the conversation balanced. First, just respond naturally if you're still genuinely interested in chatting. Second, Don't play silly games by pretending you are far too busy to care. That's just a defensive mask, and people see right through it. And third, match the tone without dropping everything instantly. You definitely don't want to reward inconsistent communication by replying within 2 seconds, but you also shouldn't purposefully ignore them for 3 days just to be spiteful. Simply match their tone and continue the conversation if it feels worthwhile to you. It is all about maintaining a healthy balance. Next up is Section 5, evaluating her communication patterns. This is where we need to shift our focus away from the anxiety of a single, isolated, ignored message and start looking at the broader picture of her behavior over time. One ignored message doesn't actually tell you much, but repeated patterns, oh, they tell you everything you need to know. Here's a really simple mental checklist for evaluating her patterns. If she consistently leaves messages unanswered, that shows a clear lack of reliable interest. If she only replies when she's bored, she's likely just using your conversation to pass the time. And if she puts very little effort into the chats, giving your one-word answers while you're writing whole paragraphs, it indicates a highly unequal investment. You need to believe the pattern. True interest is reflected in consistent behavior over time, not just in isolated, convenient little texts. And finally, Section 6, knowing when to walk away. I want to acknowledge right now that this is usually the absolute hardest step in building your romantic self-esteem, accepting when interest just isn't mutual. Sometimes the healthiest response isn't crafting the perfect, witty follow-up text. It's accepting reality. Not everyone will choose you, and honestly, that is perfectly okay. The goal of dating isn't to convince someone to like you. Walking away isn't giving up. It is making room for relationships where effort actually flows both ways. So the crucial point here is that the goal is to find someone who genuinely enjoys talking to you without making you constantly question your worth. The right person simply won't leave you in a constant state of wondering where you stand with them. To quickly summarize the final thoughts of our playbook today, keep these core principles locked in your mind. Don't chase, don't beg for attention, don't overanalyze every passing minute of silence. Give her space and focus entirely on your own awesome life. Most importantly, watch her actions instead of imagining or rationalizing her intentions. Healthy connections are built on mutual interest, mutual respect, and consistent effort from both sides. And that brings us to the end of our explainer today. But before you go, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative question. What is the longest you have ever waited for someone to reply to your message? Seriously, think about that. Reflect on your own boundaries and how much time you are actually willing to spend waiting on someone else. If you found this structured breakdown helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely share your waiting stories in the comments below. Thanks so much for joining me, and remember, always value your own time.